But overall, this is still a great looking Blu-ray. Hey movie junkies, welcome back to another fun-filled episode of Twin Flicks, where we always here celebrating the magic of movies and physical media with you. Well, today we're taking another look at another David Fincher masterpiece, which is Fight Club, that finally gets its due on 4K UHD. But before we dive into this comparison review, I just briefly wanted to touch on the changes that David Fincher made with this 4K scan. I've received some DMs and comments from different people who want to know my thoughts on these revisions and what my response is towards it. And I think maybe my response might surprise some of you out there, because honestly, I think it's great that David Fincher is able to go back and tweak subtle details that he was never fully happy with. Now, there are three revisions, and I pulled them here to compare against the Blu-ray. So first up is the Paper Street sign. It's now dilapidated, and this now matches the grungy, dilapidated neighborhood, and this revision makes sense. The next one, and this has been a big controversy for some reason online, and that is Marla's medication bottle. Take a look at the dosage. Originally, her Xanax was prescribed at 300 milligrams. David Fincher revised it to a much more realistic dosage of 0.5 milligrams. And this makes logical sense because, at least as far as I know, they don't even make a 300 milligram Xanax pill. And the third revision is when the group are erasing data on the VHS tapes or the DVDs at a Blockbuster store. Originally, the neon sign was red. This was also true with previous home video releases, and I believe also the theatrical edition. Now it's the accurate Blockbuster blue. David Fincher was unable to secure the rights to the Blockbuster sign, which is why previously it was red in the movie. Again, another good revision that makes sense. And if I end up missing others, then that's pretty much your answer, because any other revisions are so subtle, so minimal, it really doesn't matter or affect the film. And I'm perfectly fine and happy with the revisions that David Fincher made. Not just with Fight Club, but also with 7 and Panic Room on 4K. I mean, hey, at least David Fincher didn't go full on George Lucas, where he fundamentally changed an entire scene or invented a whole new scene. Instead, David Fincher does these revisions right, and very subtle with background revisions that has no real impact or effect on the film. Alright guys, well let's take a look at the 4K presentation of Fight Club, because Fight Club comes at us with a new 4K scan from the original 35mm negative, forming a 4K DI with HDR10 plus grading, and preserves the original theatrical ratio of 2:3:9:1. The 4K restoration and color grading was personally supervised and approved by David Fincher, where he had hands-on supervision with the entire restoration process, color grading, and even its release. Alright guys, so let's take a closer look at Fight Club on 4K UHD against the 2009 Blu-ray, and let's see if this 4K is really worth the upgrade, because honestly, this 2000 Blu-ray has always looked great. I've never had an issue with it. So let's find out if this 4K is really worth the upgrade. Fight Club on 4K delivers a highly impressive experience that is fiercely faithful to its theatrical roots with some of David Fincher's revisions. For instance, the new color grade makes more sense here on this 4K and adds to the gravitas of the film now. The 2009 Blu-ray has a warmer color palette, relying on greens and yellow hues, while the 4K leans more towards cooler tones. The HDR10 grading feels incredibly controlled and deliberate, retaining Fincher's vision of the film, and now closely matches with a detached and deeply cynical worldview. Skin tones are interesting here too. During daylight sequences, skin tones look more pale or emotionally exhausted here, while night sequences, skin tones, they look more naturally warmer. And this now gives a perfect contrast. between the grim and sterile look of the real world against a warmer shift in tones of the more psychological world where characters spring to life. And this was an area the 2009 Blu-ray just did not have. The HDR10 grading expands the color volume, bringing bold, full-body colors from deeper reds, steely blues, warmer oranges, and lively greens that emerge with greater vibrancy, but also used where the stylized grading allows for it. An area of note is the exceptional and striking black levels that are significantly enhanced by the HDR10 grading that results in those gorgeous, inky, truer looking blacks and improved depth with stronger shadows. And what this does now is it really allows for finer details and textures to come through the darkness with stronger visibility, even within those darker, murkier corners than it did on the 2009 Blu-ray. Fight Club is inherently dark and shot under very dim lighting, and contrast needs to be handled with considerable care here. And the HDR10 grading widens its dynamic range while maintaining the perfect balance between those bright and dark areas without either element competing for screen space. The better use of contrast also yields accurate light levels that does improve color timing throughout. It's a very nice improvement over the 2009 Blu-ray. This 4K scan is truly remarkable here, with vast improvements that you notice from frame one. Now the 2009 Blu-ray definitely looks much softer, and also even slightly blurry I noticed in some shots. The higher resolution delivers a significant increase here in texture and detail levels, and also rendering cleaner, finer lines, giving way to the absolute sharpest and clearest image possible. And the 4K scan also excels at cleaning the image. And while yes, there is some slight digital enhancements, it's used very tastefully here, where the image never looks overly processed or waxy, but instead just adds to the film. And the 4K scan still has its inherent qualities from the original production and photography that was baked into the negative, giving Fight Club on 4K a nice filmic appearance. And when comparing to the 2009 Blu-ray, I will say that texture and detail levels look much more tactile and lifelike, especially with the dilapidated Paper Street house, where we can now see all the cracked paint, every piece of warped wood, stained wallpaper, rust and grime, even down to seeing all the tiny dust particles floating in the air in the backgrounds. It's truly an incredible level of detail here on this 4K scan. The image also feels more resolute, with a much better sense of realism that was largely absent on the 2009 Blu-ray. Also, this 4K has more natural depth and three-dimensionality that really elevates the film with excellent tangibility. And contrary to popular belief, there is still grain present here. And while there might be some grain management, it's very minimal, and Fincher avoids that waxy or artificial processed look from DNR scrubbing. Instead, the grain structure here gives the film its authentic theatrical 35mm look and reinforces the film's original filmic appearance. Alright guys, now let's take a look, or I guess a listen, to the audio presentation of this 4K release. David Fincher opted to carry over the film's DTS HD Lossless 5.1 soundtrack from the 2009 Blu-ray. And even though it's an older mix, it still does get the job done. The 5.1 mix is a very engaging and active surround experience with outstanding directional effects that flow and move from the front to the rear channels with extreme ease and expert precision. The low frequency response has deep bass that gives the film some nice amount of weight and heft to it that's controlled and precise and will give your home theater a great workout. And dialogue is clean and clear and is never overpowered by the film's music, score, or sound effects. This is a cinematic and responsive 5.1 track. Guys, Fight Club's 4K UHD presentation delivers a highly impressive and immersive experience with substantial improvements in both video and audio quality, which makes this release an immediate upgrade from your 2009 Blu-ray. Yeah, it's definitely time to upgrade to this 4K. However, I do want to stress that if you don't have a 4K setup, the 2009 Blu-ray is still a great choice. There's really nothing wrong with it. The 4K, especially with the HDR10, just really enhances what's already there and the revisions. But overall, this is still a great looking Blu-ray. Alright guys, well now head over to the comments section and let me know. I really want your opinion on this one. When you look at the differences here between the two formats, the 2009 Blu-ray against the new 4K UHD, which do you think looks better? Or do you even see much difference at all? Do you think it's worth upgrading to the 4K? Head over to the comment section and let me know. As always, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me for a few minutes here as we dive in and take a closer look at Fight Club on 4K UHD and comparing it to the already impressive 2009 Blu-ray. As always, guys, keep physical media alive and stay tuned for more 4K versus Blu-ray comparisons.
Twin Flicks presents 4K versus Blu-ray.